Jack, the worst end user, the conclusion. Approximately 20 minutes after Jack left the office, the boss forwarded me this email. I contacted him immediately at his desk. Hey boss, I saw the email you sent. Do you need me to handle sending file XYZ? Yes, is it actually possible to send files to people using Facebook? Yes, it is. However, I'll have to use the specific computer Jack has been utilizing. It's the only one with access to Facebook. Right. I'll meet you in my wife's office. I ended the call and ran a small script on my desktop. It executed its commands and then removed itself as I departed. I arrived at boss's wife's office. A few moments later, I greeted both her and the boss before moving to the computer. Just give me a moment to get Facebook loaded, and then I rotated the laptop screen towards them. Boss's wife reached out and moved the mouse. The display illuminated. Boss stared, stunned. Gee, boss's wife gasped. A faint sound, followed by the distinct noise of a horse, emanated from the laptop speakers. She quickly closed the video window, only to reveal another window underneath. A Bing search for best places to buy weed near me. She closed that one as well, exposing a BuzzFeed article titled 10 Signs You're Over Your Job. As she forcefully shut the laptop, boss shook his head, his face red and trembling with fury. How could that be? I thought, who was using this computer? He bellowed. Boss's wife shook her head. Jack was using it about 30 minutes ago. As if on cue, Jack appeared in the doorway, holding a takeout bag containing his lunch leftovers. Boss's back was to him. That kind of material should be blocked, he shouted at me, gesturing towards the laptop. I nodded in agreement. I concur. Jack mentioned he needed to use the unrestricted computer for some critical projects. That's why he asked you to get the key to my desk last week, correct? I subtly indicated the door with my chin, and boss noticed Jack standing there. Jack blinked at the boss. He looked at me. He looked at the computer, then back at me. I could see comprehension dawning on his face. You did something to my computer, didn't you? He accused. Naturally, I had copied a concealed batch file onto Jack's desktop from a USB drive when I had previously attended to his computer issues. This file was designed to transmit his browsing history to me without needing to remotely access his machine or alerting him. It only required a remote trigger command, which I had initiated from my own computer. The file would then self-delete after automatically launching 3 specific web pages as soon as the mouse was moved. 3 of the most damning web pages Jack had accessed on that particular machine. While not completely untraceable, the only person who would know what to look for was currently in the room, glaring with as much feigned anger as I could muster at the troublesome end user who had become the bane of my professional life. Boss's wife interjected. She possessed slightly more technical understanding than her husband. Number Clickety didn't do anything. He simply exited the screensaver. Whatever was displayed must have been what you were, working on when you abruptly left the office for lunch, she stated, glaring pointedly at Jack before addressing the boss. He must have neglected to close out the evidence of his blatant misuse of company resources. I shook my head solemnly. And I entrusted you with this unrestricted computer, Jack. I even secured you your own company email address because I genuinely believed you would be a valuable asset. Clearly, I was mistaken. I attempted to sound genuinely hurt. Boss's wife casually picked up the laptop and handed it back to me. Jack, I am quite displeased that you would behave in this manner. I hired you as a favor to your mother, and you can be certain she will be informed of this. Now go home. Jack stood frozen, visibly shaking. He likely suspected what I had done, but lacked any means of proving it. But he pointed towards me, speechless. Get out, boss roared. Jack burst into tears and fled the room. As I composed this, 4 weeks have passed since Jack's termination. I have since patched the security vulnerability related to Spotify, and the interns are once again enjoying their music. I did not return the spare desk key to the office manager. Regarding Jack, I encountered him the other day when he visited with his mother. He came and knocked on my door. Clickety? I looked up, narrowing my eyes slightly. Yes? I wanted to apologize for the things I said and for my behavior. I simply blinked. Now that I've apologized, I was hoping you could tell my mom that I didn't really look up any of that stuff. You were the one who did it, not me. He took a deep breath. I've learned my lesson. So Was he serious? Come on, Clickety. She's made me get another job, and she cut my allowance. Please. He looked at me pleadingly. For a fleeting moment, I almost felt a pang of sympathy. Almost, in reality, not even close. I shook my head and returned to my typing, and now Jack remained standing there. After prolonged silence, I looked up at him again. You may leave now, and with that he was gone. Jack, asking Clickety to lie to your mom? Seriously? If you can't believe the nerve, hit that like button and subscribe. He gave his computer a terabyte of RAM for gaming. I was in a remote session with a colleague recently when I made a rather unsettling discovery. His 2 terabyte hard drive was completely full, as was his smaller 120 gigabyte SSD. Upon asking what could possibly be consuming such vast amounts of space, I received the classic response. I'm not really sure. It's always been like this. I just delete things when it gets too full to work properly. It was time to deploy a helpful utility. I used WinDearStat, an application that visually represents drive contents, scaling file sizes proportionally. Typically, when running this, you expect to see a mix of files, some documents, downloaded media, perhaps a few large game installations. However, in this instance, the display showed something truly extraordinary. Instead of a varied landscape of files, there was one absolutely enormous block dominating the entire 2 terabyte drive. It consumed well over half the capacity, leaving only tiny slivers of space for other files to cling to around the edges. It was a digital leviathan, unlike anything I'd encountered before in this context. For those familiar with Windows system files, the culprit might already be obvious. This gargantuan entity was none other than pagefile.sys. I navigated through the system configuration settings to confirm my suspicion, all the while my colleague watched, his eyes widening slightly with a dawning realization. I located the pagefile settings. They were set to manual configuration, and the specified size was staggering, a default size of 1 terabyte, with the allowance to expand up to 1.2 terabytes. My colleague then offered his explanation for this bizarre setup. Apparently, about 4 years prior, he wanted to play a specific game that kept crashing. Rather than closing some background applications or considering adding more physical memory RAM, he decided the best approach was to increase his page file size. He tried a gigabyte, which didn't help, then 2 gigabytes, still no luck. Eventually, he must have just entered 1, followed by a significant number of zeros, inadvertently setting the size to a full terabyte. Years went by, and he simply didn't notice the daily impact as the page file steadily grew, consuming available space, gradually expanding to occupy 1.2 terabytes of his total 1.8 terabytes usable capacity, and that is how he had been operating his computer, without questioning the disappearing disk space for 4 long years. A simple adjustment to the page file size back to a sensible system-managed level, followed by a quick restart, resolved the issue completely. He was left with vast amounts of free space, a much happier computer, and I had a memorable story to recount. Customer abandoned a high-end gaming PC after repair. Some time ago, a customer contacted my computer repair business. They had acquired all the necessary components for a new computer and simply needed someone to assemble it, as they weren't comfortable doing it themselves. It was quite a high specification machine. The parts alone likely cost upwards of $2,000. I completed the build without encountering any issues, and the customer was very pleased with the result. When they came to pick up the new system, they also brought in one of their older computers and asked if I could get it working again so their children could use it together. This machine was perhaps 2 or 3 years old at the time, but it had been built with top-tier components for its era, probably costing between $2,000 and $2,500 initially. They specifically provided an NVIDIA GTX 1070 graphics card and mentioned it needed a new hard drive and some additional cooling fans. So, I sourced a new hard drive for around $100, installed the provided GTX 1070, and added the extra fans. After setting it up, the computer performed exceptionally well. I contacted the customer to inform them that the work was completed and the machine was ready for pickup. They expressed their satisfaction once again and said they would come by later that day. 3 days passed, and they didn't show up or call. I reached out again to ask when they planned to collect it. They responded saying they would be by over the upcoming weekend. Another 7 days went by, and still no sign of them. They then indicated they would arrive by the end of that day, but again, they did not appear. After 2 full weeks had elapsed since the repair was finished, I called again, but received no answer. I left a voicemail and followed up with an email explaining that, starting at the beginning of the next month, a storage fee of $20 per week would apply, as it had now been over 30 days since the work was completed. I called them again midway through the following week to reiterate that the computer was ready and to explain the storage fee, but there was no answer. I left another voicemail and also sent them a text message. The week after that, still no response to my calls, voicemails, emails, or texts. On the third week after the fee notification, there was still no answer when I called. However, they did call me back 2 days later. They explained they had a family emergency and had been out of town, promising they would be by within 2 days to pick up the computer. 3 days subsequently passed without them showing up or contacting me. On the fourth week after the storage fee notification, I made one final attempt to contact them. I left a message explaining that this would be the last communication they received from me regarding this matter. I stated that I would hold on to the computer for a period of 90 days, after which I would assume they no longer wanted it and would take ownership of the machine according to my business policy. We are now well past the 100-day mark since I sent that final notification. Consequently, I now possess a very capable gaming computer acquired for the minimal investment of just $100 for the hard drive I installed. ISP called about downtime during office fire. This particular interaction with a service provider stands out as my most memorable experience. It was late one evening in December several years ago when I received an unexpected phone call from my boss. He informed me that there was a fire at the office building and suggested I might want to come in to see what was happening, so I headed over. By the time I arrived, the fire seemed to be largely under control, and I joined a group of about 20 or so colleagues standing in the parking lot. We were all waiting for the firefighters to give us the clearance to re-enter the building and assess the situation. At that time, our company's internet service was provided by a truly excellent local ISP. They were the kind of smaller company that genuinely prioritized customer service and responsiveness. While I was standing outside, feeling the chill of the winter air next to a fire truck, my mobile phone rang. It was one of the technicians from our ISP. I knew him reasonably well as we had shared an office at a different company some years prior. I answered the call. Me. Hello? Tech. Hi, this is Tech's name from ISP name. I just wanted to let you know that our monitoring systems detected that your internet link is currently down, and we're actively looking into the issue. Me. Ah, right, that might be because it's on fire. There was a significant pause on the other end of the line. It felt like a long moment before he responded. Tech. Did you just say it's on fire? Me. Yeah, there was a fire inside the building. I'm actually standing right next to a fire truck outside at the moment. They haven't let anyone go back inside yet. Then, without the slightest hesitation, the technician said something that was completely uncharacteristic for anyone at that particular ISP, especially given their reputation for premium service. Da Tech. Ah, well, okay then. I'll go ahead and assume the problem is on your end. And with that, he hung up. Despite the cold weather, the uncertainty about the extent of the damage to the office, and the overall seriousness of the situation, I couldn't help but burst out laughing at the sheer absurdity of the exchange. True to their reputation for being an exceptional ISP, less than 5 minutes later my phone rang again. It was the same technician calling back. He quickly said, I just checked and we currently have 2 portable generators that are not in use. If you need them for anything at all, just say the word and I can have them delivered to you within 2 hours, regardless of the time, day or night. There would be absolutely no charge for this. Our service contract with them certainly did not include any provisions for providing generators, making the offer even more remarkable. When the ISP says problem on your end during a fire, you know it's a r/talesfromtechsupport classic. What's your most memorable tech call? Let me know in the comments. Warning ignored, the free iPad virus. Supporting a user over the phone can be challenging enough on its own. Add in a second, equally non-technical person whispering instructions and contradicting your guidance from the background, and you have a recipe for maximum frustration. This is precisely the situation I found myself in during a recent support call. My objective was simple: help the customer reset their password for an online service. I had guided them to their email inbox and explained the next step they needed to take. Okay, I instructed, my voice calm and clear. I've just sent you an email containing a password reset link. Please open that specific email, and then within the message you'll find the link you need to click to reset your password. The customer confirmed they saw the email arrive and were preparing to open it. Okay, let me see. they mumbled as they navigated their screen. Then a voice cut in sharply from off mic, clearly the customer's spouse standing nearby. It was insistent and urgent, laced with unexpected excitement. "Wait, stop, go back," the wife exclaimed loudly. The customer paused, sounding confused by the sudden interruption. "What?" he asked his wife. "Look at that one," the wife said, her voice full of sudden, intense interest. "It says you've won something. A free iPad. Ah yes, the ubiquitous "you've won." Scam email. A common annoyance, easily identified, and usually just requires a quick warning to the user before moving on. No big deal, I thought. I just needed to explain the situation and redirect them back to the legitimate email. "Okay, listen carefully," I said, trying to regain control of the call's direction. "That email offering a free iPad is not legitimate. It's almost certainly a scam attempt, a phishing email. These are designed to trick you into clicking something that will harm your computer or steal your personal information. You absolutely should not click on anything within that email." The wife's voice returned immediately, completely dismissing my warning. No, let's just take a look at it first. It might be real." A familiar wave of professional dread washed over me. "Please don't entertain this," I thought internally, feeling my patience begin to fray. "I really strongly advise against opening or clicking anything in that message," I reiterated, my tone becoming more firm. "These scams are very convincing, but they are dangerous. Please just ignore it and open the email I sent you for the password reset." The customer, clearly caught in the middle between my technical guidance and his wife's persuasive enthusiasm, tried to find a compromise that would satisfy both parties. "It's okay," he said, trying to reassure me, though it did little to alleviate my apprehension. "We're just going to look at the email itself. We won't download anything or give them any information." This is a classic precursor to disaster. The boundary between just looking and clicking the enticing, brightly colored button that promises free things is often non-existent for users susceptible to these scams. The wife was certainly not helping the situation with her persistent encouragement. "Maybe it's from the mall," she suggested again, her voice brimming with hopeful possibility. "No," I stated flatly, trying to inject some definitive reality into the conversation. "It is not from the mall or Apple or any legitimate company that gives away expensive electronics via random email. These are scams, pure and simple." Despite my very clear warnings and explanations, I could hear the sounds of them navigating their computer's interface, presumably moving towards the suspicious email. "Okay," the customer said, his voice indicating they were proceeding. "We're just going to take a quick look at what it says." A moment later, the wife's voice, now significantly more excited and triumphant, confirmed my worst fears. "Wow, a free iPad. I can't believe it. We actually won something." "No, you absolutely did not win anything," I thought, the internal monologue screaming in frustration. "You are about to very deliberately infect your computer with malware, despite being explicitly told not to." "Click on it," the wife urged, her voice practically singing with anticipation for their supposed prize. "No, really, please don't," I pleaded silently, desperately hoping they might hesitate at the last second. "Please, for the love of all that is technically sound and secure, do not click that link." My warning seemed to be falling on deaf ears, overridden by the allure of a free gadget. I heard the distinct sound of a mouse click, followed by the customer confirming their action, still focused on the promised reward. "Okay," he said, "let's see how to redeem our iPad from Apple." My heart sank further. It wasn't from Apple, they weren't getting an iPad, they were actively inviting malicious software onto their system. I braced myself for the immediate and predictable consequence of ignoring every piece of advice I had just given them. Approximately 15 seconds later, the unmistakable, jarringly loud audio message began playing from their computer speakers. It was the classic scareware tactic, a synthesized voice blaring, "Warning! Your computer has detected a serious virus. Do not shut down. Call this number immediately for assistance." The customer's voice, now completely devoid of excitement and instead laced with palpable panic, confirmed the self-inflicted disaster. "Oh no, our computer just got a virus. It's making noise and popping things up. Can you fix this? Can you remote in right now and fix this for us?" I took a deep, steadying breath. My company policy and frankly my immediate, overwhelmed instinct was to decline the request. I had explicitly warned them repeatedly about the dangers of clicking that link, and they had chosen to ignore me in pursuit of a fictional prize. The wife, seemingly oblivious to the direct link between her insistence and the current crisis, expressed naive shock. I can't believe people would do something like that. Sending viruses. And I, fighting the powerful urge to let out a long, weary sigh directly into the phone receiver, thought to myself, and I can't believe people still fall for it, especially after being given direct, specific warnings by a professional. What followed was the predictable, tedious, and utterly exasperating process of guiding two technologically illiterate individuals through the steps required to run malware removal software. I had to explain every single step, every prompt, every button click in painstaking, granular detail. We are not permitted to simply disconnect from a call just because the user ignored explicit safety instructions and immediately got themselves into trouble as a direct result. It ended up being nearly 2 hours of baby-stepping them through running Malwarebytes and other tools, all because apparently there's no official policy in place that allows us the simple mercy of hanging up on situations born purely out of willful ignorance, disregard for advice, and poor decision-making driven by the siren song of a free iPad. Free iPad virus? Oh, the pain is real. Don't fall for scams, but definitely hit subscribe for more tech support nightmares. Which tale was your favorite?